All right, it's 6:04 on this pleasant Monday evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order with Pledge of Allegiance.
I did speak too soon, didn't I? I said we had a minute to spare.
That's right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Can you do a quick roll call for us, please?
Trustee O'Malley.
Here.
Trustee Patton.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Ryan.
Here.
Mayor Lewis. Mayor Lewis.
Mayor Lewis?
Mayor
Lewis! Oh, great.
Please don't foreshadow that.
Trustee Bushner.
Present.
Trustee Pine.
Yes.
And Trustee Lewis.
Yes.
All right,
It
thank
was me once that was mayor, remember?
And we have attorney.
Tingley.
John Tingley.
Jonathan Tingley, yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you. We also have Neil Stoll here and Kenny here. Holbrook, thank you guys for being here. Extra agendas are up here somewhere. Hello? I have agendas up here somewhere. There it is.
Yep.
Okay. Again, thank you guys for coming out. I don't like special meetings, but it does keep things rolling and moving, and that's the important thing that we're here about. So, I've sent you guys some email updates, but I want to very, very quickly summarize. Starting with the the Water Quality Improvement Project program. It's a grant program from the state. In this case, we'd like to recommend that we apply for this. In part because the state is requiring an additional disinfectant system at the wastewater treatment plant starting in 2022. When we spoke last meeting, I thought that we were okay to wait a year, but after reviewing the timeline, I realized that that was a mistake of mine. If we are going to get this application in, say we do, move on this week, and it's due at the end of the week, it's awarded at the very end of this year in December. We would have to spend a lot of 2020 doing the physical design work and getting that approved. We would likely put out the bids in late 2020. We'd receive them in late 2020 or early 2021, and then the construction would likely begin spring or summer of 2021, which means in that timeline we should have things completed right before the year 2022. If we wait, everything gets postponed a year, and that means we would likely be late for the speedies requirements. Is it a speedies requirement, County, or just I don't know if it's speedy specific or just another requirement?
For the disinfection?
Yeah.
It's going to be a speedies requirement.
Okay. All right. We had a report prepared by MRB because of some of the things we've run into with MRB. Andy, Kenny, and I had some apprehension about moving forward with MRB, so we spoke with Robert Flores of Delaware Engineering. He reviewed it, gave some recommended changes to it. We reviewed our contract with MRB and asked for and eventually got today written confirmation that we could proceed with using the MRB engineering report in our application as an unchanged, unmodified report attachment to the existing application that, if we move forward with tonight, will be submitted later this week by the deadline of Friday. The original MRB plan called for a building where, and Kenny, correct me if I'm wrong, the after the SBR tank runs its 3-hour cycle, the last 30 minutes of the cycle is where it sends the treated water out.
Yes.
That treated water would then go to a building where it would have UV treatment of somehow, 20 total UV lamps, and then it would go out to the river.
Yep.
Robert Flores, looking over the design and running some of his own changes. First, he thought of having a what's that kind of tank called that collects it? I always forget this term. Equalization tank.
Yes.
Thank you. So that it would take the massive amount that would come in that 30-minute cycle and basically collect it all and then send it out gradually over 3 hours. With the idea of being it would require less UV lamps, save you cost in the long term.
So basically what happens is you have to have a certain amount of contact time with the UV lamps in the sewage water. So with the way the tanks work now, the SBR system, they only decant for 30 minutes, or I think it's like 49 minutes actually, it decants. But those lights, if they keep running without water cooling, they'll burn out within a a few hours. So you have to have a constant flow of water through there. So with an equalization tank, as the SBR decants into that tank, it fills this tank up, and the flow out of the tank is restricted, so there's always gonna be a constant flow coming out of that tank instead of, you know, one shot for 30 minutes or 49 minutes and then your lights are on. And then there was also subject of like, or brought up about like a sensor when the water starts coming through, but if that sensor would ever fail, and, you know,
Then
we
you-
were out doing something else and we didn't notice the sensor failed, then you're sending untreated water to the river, which is
Yeah.
a no-no,
Yeah.
so.
And then Robert did some further planning and realized that instead of an equalization tank, he could install an 8-foot wide, basically, pipe that would run the length. It's about 200
Yep.
something feet from the SBR tank to the UV treatments, and that would have some sort of control at the end to make sure that the flow is more even. And that pipe would have the same amount of volume as the equalization tank, and it wouldn't require any pipes because it's all gravity fed because
So
of the
no
grade there.
pumping, no pumps.
So it's actually
no-
a cheaper option than the equalization tank. So
Right,
that
you
was,
said no pumps in the email, right?
No
Yeah,
pumps.
yeah.
So we're not necessarily deciding tonight on what that system is gonna look at in any real level of detail. We're submitting for funding, and so we're submitting a proposal.
right, but
That
the,
doesn't
And
necessarily,
you're asked, you know, you guys are deciding on whether we wanna go forward with the
yes,
Delaware.
we don't have to decide the design. In a sense, he's
I have
decided
some,
the design.
I have some questions about the design that I would like to ask him, but I don't think it impacts our decision tonight in any way.
No, it shouldn't. I mean, he's going to submit this general design with his changes to the MRB design so that they have an understanding of what we're going to do. But we're not in like the technical everything figured out phase.
If you talk to him, my question is that if basically that's a culvert in the ground, and then when you put a restriction on the end, it becomes a holding tank in the ground. So if the tank itself, or the whatever you wanna call it, isn't engineered to hold back all that water, if it's just a pass-through normally that
Yeah.
we're gonna cap at one end, I just wanna ask him if that's a common thing, or if there's something different to put in the
He
ground.
mentioned that he had designed one like that before, you know, and there's ways to enter the tank, you know, so it can be maintained and cleaned and stuff like that, so.
Okay.
So
Cool.
Craig, you're asking whether it's capable of, is it really an 8-foot culvert, or, and
Is it
does
a
it,
tank
has the
that's
ability
buried
to
in
have
the
a
ground?
thicker wall for,
And as long as they answer the question, I'm perfectly confident.
I get what
He
you're saying,
he
that
gave
makes
me a
sense.
couple options this morning when I talked to him, he thought about one option being like a concrete, box culvert type deal, like what we have running
Yep.
into the river here. Or he said they make the big, thick walled corrugated plastic pipe like we use for drainage, he said they also make that, and he didn't seem to have any concerns about,
It's like between like a PVC is gonna have a Schedule 40 versus Schedule 80.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So what we're asking tonight
Oh, I
is
just wanna
yeah.
ask one question about, in, I think it's Robert's email, he said that he thought the cost estimates were very low. How much, the grant's up to what, 1.2 million?
The grant offers a $1 million up to $1 million award and a required 25% match. So if the project was 1.325 million, that would maximize the $1 million max award with the 25% of the project being $325,000. In this situation, if the project is 1.5 million, like he estimated his version would be, then we would just be putting more than the 325. And the likely way we would do that would be bond resolution, and disperse, you know.
And that would be added to the sewer bond payment?
In a sense, yeah. But I mean, one of the things I was thinking about was the fact that we keep having sewer profit from the sewer collection, and maybe we should try to start using that and targeting sewer bonds and bring that down, knowing that this will be coming in a couple of years.
Are we considering in the design of this addition to the chain that down the road there may have to be a gap of some sort added into the chain? Is that being considered? Well, so it's not all the work goes in to do this and all of a sudden
That's a whole nother.
it's a whole other thing, but is it, I guess when we're looking at this, are we thinking forward of leaving the space or room or whatever needs to be done to not disrupt all the work we're doing down the road?
Yeah, I mean, I think because this can be, I think that was one of his bigger points, Roberts, was because this is underground, we don't have a lot of, you know, space taking up, we can build on top of it in a sense
Okay.
if we had to.
So, so we won't end up having to redo part of this later if
Yeah.
that comes up. Alright.
Yep.
That was an easy question.
I'm just not sure whether the GAC would come before or after.
I think it would have to come after
after the
everything.
UV.
I would, or before, cause you want to disinfect it before it goes into carbon. And then it comes out of carbon.
I don't know
Well,
how
that's not,
Yeah.
Right. Well,
it's not
either
for
way,
tonight, right?
either way, there is space because you have this
Yeah.
space before it heads out to the river.
Look at a map, look at
I
you.
do have a map. Yeah, it's spiffy. It's
Wow.
spiffy.
Look at
So,
the mayor or something.
all right. So, Kenny's here. If you have any more technical questions, do you guys have any questions or any other thoughts on this?
So, Robert's gonna submit this now, MRB.
Correct. Robert has submitted. In fact, he sent us a draft one. If you guys want to look this over, this is the draft application. It's very dry. It's
John,
very
you
dry.
don't have- You don't see any issue him doing this for free?
No, I don't see any issue for him, you know, to do it. It might be a lost leader for him, you know, trying to.
Get more business.
Pick up
Let's
business.
see if,
Yeah.
you know, from
Yeah.
a business perspective, that may be what he's doing, but,
Yeah.
he's an engineer and
Yeah.
they're an engineering firm and they put their stamp on something and they put their name on something, that's, they've got professional responsibilities to the village, so.
And we
Whether they
both.
charge you nothing or whether they charge you $3 million to do it, they owe you
Yeah.
professional obligations, so.
I didn't know whether there's any kind of, state regulations on
I don't
doing
see-
something for free, expecting to get something else.
No, I don't see any issue with it, I
Yeah.
don't, I really
As long as they're
don't.
not implying that.
No,
I
it's
mean,
not, he's not offering, like, the mayor free services at his house, he's doing free services for the
Should've asked.
municipality.
Right, for the village itself.
And he actually-
And it's a time constraint thing, I mean, there was, you know, this is a really recent development within the past week or so, and you could waste a lot of time trying to figure out an arrangement, or he could just submit it, cause he has done them before and he knows what he's doing, and then
And he knows the village.
down the road,
He
if
does.
he gets the job, he gets the job, if he doesn't, he doesn't. There's no obligation on the village's part to give him the job later on.
And we
Just
will have to
curious.
put it out for bid.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he stated this morning that he said he wouldn't have done it for anybody else but the village, because we've worked so closely with him. I mean, Robert's the one that designed the whole sewer plant, you know, years ago, when we did the whole upgrade. He was very involved, and he's the, you know, he was the head engineer, and he was out there every day, so he knows everything about the plant. He's been there since day one, and, you know, like I said, he was on vacation this week, and he spent the weekend working on this, so we could get it out by Thursday. So
I was trying to figure out how he knew the grade of the sewer treatment plant because I don't think that's in the report.
I'm sure he probably has.
But
it
he
in the
probably
records.
knows it.
records,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, it's because it's not in the report anywhere.
he's freakishly knowledgeable about, you know, he was quoting things to me that, this morning, that he had done in the plant 15 years ago, and I'm like, oh yeah. And he's just, you know, rattling them off, so he knows a lot about our plant. You know,
Which is great.
Yeah. All right.
Definitely
So
knows more than
if
MRB.
that's the case, I would like to introduce the resolution. It's the first one in your packet. This would be the resolution authorizing preparation and submission of grant application for improvements to village wastewater treatment plant. I'm not going to read all the whereas. I'm just going to go to the now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Hoosick Falls in special session duly convened as follows. The Board of Trustees of the Village of Hoosick Falls hereby authorizes the preparation and submittal of a grant application to New York State for the improvements to the village wastewater treatment plant necessary for disinfection of effluent from the wastewater treatment plant prior to its discharge to the Hoosick River, and as further described above, and further hereby authorizes the mayor to execute any and all documents necessary for the preparation and submission of such grant application process to New York State. Looking for someone to offer it.
Motion?
Second.
Thank you, Ben. Second, Brian. Any further discussion? This will be a roll call vote.
Trustee Pine,
Yes.
trustee O'Malley.
Yes,
Trustee Patton.
Yes.
Trustee Lewis,
Yes.
trustee Wishner,
Yes.
Mayor Allen,
Yes.
and deputy mayor Ryan.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Passes unanimously. Another resolution, this one is authorizing commencement of review under SEEKR, State Environmental Quality Review Act, for a wastewater treatment plant effluent disinfection project. Well, now, we did have a little bit of discussion with this with Andy and actually with Sterling Environmental, and this was the way they wanted to go with it. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Hoosick Falls in special session duly convened as follows. One, the Board of Trustees of the Village of Hoosick Falls hereby authorizes the preparation of an environmental assessment form under the State Environmental Quality Review Act for the wastewater treatment plant effluent disinfection project, and to therefore serve a notice to coordinate lead agency designation upon all involved agencies to this action and to thereafter complete the coordinated environmental impact review of this action pursuant to seeker. Looking for someone to offer the resolution?
Motion.
Thank you, Bobby. Second, Vanessa. Thank you. One thing I forgot to mention in this, we will have the next several months to complete this, and I think also complete bond council, because I think that needs to be set up before the award. That was what Robert said to me, but I'll double check on that, and we have time for that, so it's nothing pressing right now. Any questions on this?
Need to do roll call.
Roll call votes.
Trustee Pine,
Yes.
trustee O'Malley,
Yes.
trustee Patton.
Yes.
Trustee Lewis,
Yes.
trustee Bushner,
Yes.
Mayor Allen.
Yes.
And deputy mayor Ryan.
Yes.
Great. Thank you, guys. Passes unanimously, and apologies for my insanely long emails on that. All right. Before we go to the highway garage grant, the last item of business we had was the Rensselaer pump station. We only have one quote. The second quote is coming tomorrow, and the third quote we haven't gotten anything back from yet. So we can't actually move on this order tonight. So just for the sake of ease, I'd like to ask someone to table the motion to award contracts.
Motion to table the award contract?
Second.
Any further discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. It is tabled.
Till next month.
Till the next regular meeting.
Special meeting.
Until a special meeting in 4 days. Just kidding. Just kidding. Yep, this
I
is
just
the
did that on my-
Can meet on Friday.
this is the wastewater treatment plant application draft that he's in. If
exciting
anyone wants to read
reading.
it, so it's super exciting.
Later on, when I need to sleep on.
Yeah, oh, that'll knock you right out. Okay, the
page
next
is the
page
word
in your packet, I have a few things for you. I have the project budget. This would be the project budget with the updated contracts if we approve them tonight, the HVAC and the plumbing. The next page is the letter we got like an hour and a half before our last meeting, which gave the recommendations on the contract awards. MRB is, I wouldn't say they're recommending, because I don't think they recommend in this, but they basically say if the village elects to accept the plumbing. Bishop Beaudry, who is the GC, who already has the GC contract, was the lowest bid for both the plumbing contract and the HVAC contract. Now, the issue we had, beside the fact that we had like an hour and a half of prep for this last week, was this was an extra $70,000 from the original two bids, which ended up proving, I don't know what the word is, they never should have come to us because it wasn't properly vetted. It turns out that company was not set to do business in New York State, hence the rebidding process. So
That was Hayden Plumbing and Heating, correct?
yeah, that was Hayden. So there's a couple things. Neil and I have talked about this. I think our recommendation, begrudgingly, is to move forward with this just because if we delay any further, we are looking at likely higher costs because it'll be moving into winter weather and they may need to heat to do some of the work. Along with this, we have prepared, and I think it's on the next page. Nope, it's not the next page. It's the page after that. Oh, no, it's the next page. Go me. Is the bond resolution. The original grant was for 1.1. The revised budget is for 1.43 in a sense. And what we want to do is we want to build in a little bit of extra. So we're looking to do a bond of $400,000, which would raise the entire maximum estimated cost of the project to 1.5. And Neil has already said that he will spend the next couple budgets, his next fiscal budgets, to alleviate some of the additional costs of the highway garage. With that smile on his face is how he said it too.
I think you're gonna steal it from me. I'll be retired by then.
No, you
Yeah.
won't. No. Board vetoes that.
When you say that, so your budget expenditures as far as, like, for equipment, whatever like that, Neil, or?
That's gonna be pick and choose things that we really need.
Yeah.
That's, if that works, as long as that doesn't mess the village up with their, as far as providing services, that's fine, right? I mean, we're not gonna lose services because if we don't have equipment or something.
Right.
That's great.
Well, if money starts falling on the trees, though, we'll send it right to Neil. Yeah. I did have, and I gave you guys a printout of the email conversation that I think you guys may have read or haven't read yet.
First, second, third one?
Yeah, I give you the order of how to read them in sequence because the mail does it backwards.
So they offering any relief for their mistake?
That's what that email is asking about. The basic gist is I kind of walked through the fact that MRB has made a couple mistakes in this, very blatant mistakes, and asked what they would offer. In my in-person meeting with Rich, he talked about the contract that we have, the proposal for professional services, which is the last few pages of this packet. The proposal covers the cost of the site redesign for $1,750, the rebid cost of $4,000, and then they added in construction observation, which up until this point had never been part of the previous two contracts. Now, what they did for construction observation is they list out the 10 items, and they say construction observation fee estimate is based on a 7-month construction period. Hourly, not to exceed fee based on an average of 10 hours times 28 weeks times $90 per hour gives them a subtotal of $25,200. And then it says the cost figures shown above represent our lump sum or hourly not to exceed amounts. Any additional work beyond this fee and outside the scope of this proposal would be reviewed with the client. The rest applies. Yeah, okay. So in the email, and if you go to the first one, I basically said, what are you going to do? And they said, well, we will lower the construction observation down to 8 hours a week. And it comes out to like 20,000 something.
20,160.
Wait,
so
this is some make-believe thing they added up that wasn't on anything before?
no, well the construction observation needs to be there. We
No, I
have
know,
to have
but
construction
it wasn't on
observation.
any other projects they've done before, so suddenly here
No,
it is.
it's been on other projects,
It
but it
wasn't
wasn't on
on
the
this
highway garage project.
Okay, I was just clarifying that then,
Yeah.
so it's not
Yeah.
like a delivery fee for
Nope.
National
So they're
Grid,
giving
it's
us a
make-believe.
$5,040 reduction.
Well, no. Because if they were specifying that they were going to bill exactly every hour and not to exceed that, yes. But the way that this reads, and John, feel free to hop in on this, is that if we don't use certain hours, I mean, it's based on a 7-month construction period. If we only go 5 months and it uses fewer hours, we won't be charged the full 25,000. So by them lowering the 10 hours a week to 8 hours a week over the same period, what they're basically saying is the maximum that we're putting in this contract is about 5,000 lower.
So what they're not doing is if it comes in, let's say it comes in at 17,000, they're not lowering it to 12, it would be 17, correct?
No, I think if it still came in at 17, it would still be 17. What they're doing
That's
is
what I'm saying,
saying, yeah.
they're not
Oh, yeah.
reducing it
Yeah.
to 12.
Right.
yes,
They
they're
wouldn't reduce it by the $5,000, so they're really not giving us anything.
They're not
Right.
giving
No.
us
Right.
anything, and
So-
I explained that in my last
Right, your
email.
last one.
Yeah, it's
Right.
kind of some
The
stuff
elephant
that
in
they're
the room
giving
is that
us.
they
They're
need to
giving us
go.
less people,
They're actually
less
section on
hours.
the job.
they're
Yeah.
they're
Yes.
cutting down the hours that they originally decided was the appropriate hours, and saying that will be fine. And I have not gotten
Well, if the original hours that they
response.
stated were appropriate, then how can?
How
less
can they
people
reduce
go?
it?
There's
Yeah.
well, in the chain it says basically there's gonna be some savings because we'll have 2 projects running concurrently, so the guy will be in town. So if he's managing 2 projects at once, then you can.
They can't manage one.
It's not gonna slow him down to do 2 then.
It's no big deal.
They shouldn't try to
No big
overdo
difference.
themselves.
I mean, $70,000 mistake to us, and asking a $2,500 reduction is.
It's not even a $2,500 reduction because nothing's technically being reduced.
No.
In
No.
fact,
If they still do 10 hours a week, even if the board accepts the 8-hour per week proposal, 224 hours, if they do the 10 hours per week, you're still gonna get charged for 10 hours per week.
Right.
They'll just have to come back to you once they get to the 224
And
and ask you for additional authorization for more time. So the
And money.
the way that the email clarifies it, today is that, if they use up 224 hours and only get to step 7, 8, 9, and 10 won't be done unless the village authorizes additional work.
money. So then we're
So-
holding us kinda hostage.
So they gotta
I
go
think,
throw
I
money.
think, I think a fair way to characterize it is, they're not offering you anything.
No, but Rob's last question to them, there's no response to it, is would you agree to cap it at this amount?
Right.
If they agree to that, great, let's move on, right? I mean, then they are giving us something, in that if it exceeds, they won't
If they
come
would-
back and
yeah,
bill for it.
If they would be giving you something if the hours spent, exceeds the 8 hours per week on average, yes.
You know,
If
'cause
they agree to that, yep.
you're also gonna be looking at the handwritings on the wall, and they're not gonna be working for the village anymore, and why should they bother?
I understand what you're saying, and there's a lot of stuff that I would love to say about this that would probably require an executive session. And
Or
we
just a
can-
private session.
Or just a private session, which we
Yeah,
could
which you can do.
certainly do
attorney-client,
if you guys
you can
want.
take a recess and we can have a private attorney-client session to discuss it further if you want.
Which is totally fine, actually. I meant to say that at the beginning.
Let's clarify something tonight, though, what are we asking to do? We're
Right,
asking to
what are we
issue a
doing?
bond.
Okay, so in order, on the agenda, we would, first off authorize the bond resolution, because that would, give us the okay to do the whole project. Then we would, look for a motion for me to accept the proposal for professional services. Which, and I know in the past, we have approved it with a note saying, like, there was one where we said we're only approving these 3 now and we'll approve the other 2 later, and then that had worked and they were fine with that. And then we would be awarding the contracts to the HVAC and plumbing. Those are important because then we can push through with the project and make sure that things start moving rapidly. In terms of the professional services, I don't have a really good answer on how to do that because frankly, because we're up against the clock, we're in a bad spot, and MRB, in my opinion, knows it, which is why their good faith offer is even that much more frustrating. So we would have to approve the bond resolution, approve the bids, and then approve the professional
And
services
2 out of 3
contracts.
doesn't get us where we need to be at the end of the night to get things moving.
If we approve the bids, then we award the contracts and they can move forward.
But without an engineering firm. to
Right, we don't have,
monitor it.
you would not have somebody lined up to do construction observation.
But we do have someone lined up to do construction administration, because that's part of our previous contract, so in my mind, those things would still continue. It's just when the actual work begins,
We can find somebody else by then, correct? To oversee that part? No, that'd be another
We have
your
to,
conversation.
yeah, you know, quite frankly, I don't wanna discuss it in this public forum.
Okay.
Fair enough.
But we can take a recess if you want, and we can discuss it privately.
I mean, I'm just of the thought with this that we, whatever it takes to get this done and be done with them, with this project.
So should we
move on.
follow our lawyer's advice and move into the other room for a
I think
moment?
we should, yes. Do we need a motion to take a brief recess
Yeah,
for attorney-client
Yeah,
privilege?
I would make a motion, adopt a motion to take a private, or take a recess to have a private attorney-client session.
Motion?
Thank you, Ben.
Second.
Second, someone, Bobby, I guess, Craig, all in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Opposed? Okay, we will move into this session at 6:32. We'll be back shortly. Recording is stopping. I'm looking for a motion to return from our.
Motion to.
Second.
A motion to reconvene the meeting
That's a jump
following
in
the
here.
recess.
Motion to
What
reconvene
you
the
said.
meeting following the recess, the attorney-client recess. Ben, are you still putting that motion up?
Bobby put it up and I'll
Bobby
second it.
did. Okay, Ben will second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We are back. Thank you. So moving forward through this, the first thing that I would be doing is offering the resolution. Where the heck is that? Here it is. I'm gonna read every word slowly, just kidding. Resolution authorizing the construction of a new highway garage in and for the village of Hoosick Falls, Rensselaer County, New York, at a total maximum estimated cost of $1.5 million, and authorizing the issuance of $400,000 bonds of said village to pay part of the costs thereof. How much of this do I have to read here?
You can just, have a motion made to adopt the bond resolution that's presently before the board.
Okay.
Get a second? and vote on
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to,
I will make that motion
I will
to
second it.
What
accept
he
the board proposal, the proposal
Alright.
in front of us.
yep,
it.
second,
What are we working on now, the bond resolution?
this is the bond
Bond
resolution.
Okay, so you would be making a motion to adopt the resolution before the board concerning bonding.
Thank
Okay.
you. Is that your so moved?
Yes,
So
so
moved,
moved.
okay. And Brian, are you still seconding
Yeah.
that? Alright, this, does require roll call vote.
Okay, trustee Lewis,
Yes.
trustee Pine,
Yes.
Mayor Allen,
Yes.
deputy mayor Ryan.
Yes.
is a yes. Trustee Patton,
Yes?
trustee O'Malley.
Yes.
And trustee Bushner is a yes.
Yes.
Alright, thank you. Should we do the proposal for professional services or award the contracts?
You can do it in either order.
Let's award the contracts. We'll do each individually. I'm looking for a motion to award the HVAC contract
Motion.
to the lowest bidder, which is where is it? Bishop Beaudry Construction LLC.
Was it, I'm sorry, what's the last name?
Bishop Beaudry
Beaudry, okay.
Construction. They're also the GC in the amount of $107,450.
Second.
Brian has a motion. Brian is second. Any further discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
That was Ben second, right?
Yes, it was.
That doesn't require a roll call vote, right?
No.
Okay. Alright, so that is passed, and now I'm looking for a motion to approve the plumbing contract to the lowest bidder, also Bishop Beaudry, in the amount of $134,950
Motion?
for plumbing.
Second.
Ben and Brian, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alright, carries. Now, in terms of the proposal for professional services contracts, give me just a moment here to find that motion. Okay, so I am looking for a motion to accept or to authorize the mayor to sign the proposal for professional services with the amended changes as per the July 18th email at 4:26 from Rich DeGuida that reduced the hours to 8 hours per week and the previous estimate 25,200 down to 20,160. Looking for that motion.
Motion?
Second.
Ben and Craig. Any further discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that carries as well. Thank
That
you.
number again, 20,000.
It's 20,160. It goes down from 25.
Yep.
Whatever it was to 20,160.
1,040 difference, right?
Yeah, 25.2. That's what it was. Okay. We are officially now moving forward on both the WQIP application and the highway garage grant. Thank you guys for the extra meeting. I have nothing else unless you guys want to bring something up. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Ben and Craig, further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you guys very much for coming out tonight. Really, really appreciate it.
What would you hit you instead of bid, Brian?
Now we gotta find new trucks to put in your garage.
Is that it, 134?
Whatever you want. I'll sign